Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, Spain, for the 7th round of the 2024 Formula Sprint 1 Championship here at GPVWC. My name is Edward Hunter. Alongside me in the commentary box is Caitlin Penny, and of course Remco de Zeeuw, controlling the broadcast direction side of things. It's been a very dramatic, very exciting first phase of this championship, and after a brief break of a couple of weeks, we are back for more action. Qualifying is currently underway with 12 minutes left on the clock, and in terms of the championship fight, it is Mike Quint that leads the championship by 23 points over Victor Ivanov, but of course Victor Ivanov had to miss the races in San Marino and Imola a couple of weeks before we went on break, and that is why he is trailing by as much as he is, but he did catch overall at the end of the Montreal event, of course. A very, very strong performance in race 2 on the soft tyres to just finish behind Frank Hamming, who of course took his first win in over a year. In terms of the team's championship, it is very, very close between Netrex GP and Multiforce GP, of course, as we look at Simon Frelick, Griffon Esports, returning to the championship. Of course, he did a one-off appearance at the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, where he won race 2, the reverse grid race, of course, for MS Performance, and now he's going to be replacing Giuseppe Saracino, the Italian driver for the Griffon Esports team. And it's great to see Simon Frelick back in the saddle, the man who was runner-up last season, really pushing and trying to impress us once more, Caitlin, as we ride on board with Menno Clont, the winner of race 2 in Imola, of course, his first win ever in FS1. on a very, very hot lap. Purple first sector and a pretty decent middle sector too. Nope, he's going in the pit.
Oh yes, into the pits goes Monoclon. Absolutely, Ed. Thank you very much for the introduction. This is a race that's going to be exciting. There's plenty of opportunity for overtaking, plenty of close quarter racing that's going to take place today, especially in this type of car. These cars follow so well. You'll see lunges into corners such as this. This is the corner known as Wirth curve. You'll see fast, flat-out flicks like this one through Campsa. This is one of the tougher corners for a qualifying lap where you don't want to get too much curb on the exit, but the drivers take a lot of curb anyway just to maximize that corner. And then you head into the revised final sector of the circuit that's been this way for a couple of years now, and thank goodness for that, because I have to admit, the previous version of this track was not my favorite at all. But it's perfect for a qualifying lap, makes it very, very fast. Scott Mitchell-Malm, though, slows it down and goes back to the pits.
Yep, that old Mickey Mouse chicane that was not the most loved. It was sort of introduced in an attempt to try and boost overtaking, but all it did was sort of destroy the sort of rhythm and flow of the lap, wasn't it? And it sort of ended up with a place where people followed each other quite slowly. I think I can name the amount of overtakes I saw in real life there on maybe one hand, or maybe less than one hand, as we look at Mike Quint, the man leading the championship, who is also setting the timing screens alight. So Multiforce, who, as I alluded to, they're trailing NetRX GP by 14 points in the championship. They were actually level at one point after race one at Montreal, as Mike Quint continues to power through the lap through Lacaxia. He goes and uphill into the right-hander of Bank Sabadell. Very easy to get offline there and have it compromise your exit, as Mike Quint now goes through Europcar and New Holland. The final two corners, of course, flat out at high speed. The sparks flying from the back of the Multiforce GP machine. This first effort from Mike Quint, it puts him fifth on the grid, just behind Hyperion's Pavel Andrzejewski, who's actually had a very, very solid qualifying attempt. We're not used to seeing Hyperion quite that far up the grid. So Pavel Andrzejewski, who is impressed in other series, occasionally shone in FS1, doing a good job there. Here's another debutant, Mano Manakandin. Of course, you may recognize him from a couple of drives in FS2. He's mainly an academy driver, but here he is getting his chance at Ben Constantine's 100-to-1 team, down in 29th place at the moment. A couple of 10th shy, I believe, of his teammate, which of course is Owen Kielhausvik. So there's a bit of work to do for Manakandin there. He's got quite a job to learn this car so quickly. Here's another driver in a similar boat, Damir Kuratko, who scored a couple of podiums actually a few days ago. He was on the podium in race 2 at this very same venue in torrential rain conditions here at Barcelona in FS2. He's of course filling in for Messiage Hiller at Kaizen Kota Racing, the Australian team that's had up and down season. Some great results, some race 2 win Luca Filan for them this season. They are currently a little bit further down in the pack. I think they're 6th in the standings on 119 points, quite a way adrift of Alpha Delta Racing, but quite a sort of no man's land, because they're also quite significantly clear, by over 40 points clear of Paralex Volpino. Then, as now we cut to Omari Watson in the pit lane, and Ivanov, he's really been the form man this season, Caitlin, with a lot of race 1 victories to his name. Montreal was the first time this season, I think, that he'd been beaten in a race 1, and that was, of course, by Mike Quint. So Ivanov, who has a lot of pedigree behind him, he's historically been a very, very competitive NetRX driver in many championships, and MS Performance NetRX owned by Harry Smith. Ivanov has really been punching in the lap times, although he only leads Frelick in this session with 7 minutes to go by 12 thousandths of a second at the moment is the margin. 118.172, the current time to beat.
Yes, but he has just gone to the top of the times with that last lap, so that is an improvement from Viktor Ivanov. And like you said, only just ahead of Frelick. Frelick should be one of the favourites coming into this weekend, with basically a 100% winning rate this season, if you count the race 2 victory. And into the pits there comes Jason Muscat. We're waiting to see the final few times of the session. It's usually the last 3 or 4 minutes that tend to really, really matter, because that's when the track is at its most rubbered in and when the drivers are at their fastest. And so we'll expect to see the pole position time being set in maybe even the last minute of the timer. It could even come down to a lap after the checkered flag, and often does. But still plenty of time left to see that. Currently Ivanov leads from Frelick, Watson, Smith and Andrzejewski. And the thing that's striking me here, Ed, is just how close it is so far. The top 6 within a quarter of a second. That's the kind of thing you expect from FS1, sorry. And the top 25 within just 1 second.
Yeah, another solid first sector here from Matthias Zabinski, then as he goes through Verf and uphill towards turn 9. And yeah, Hyperion really seemed to have found something, because that time from Andrzejewski has not been shaken from the leaderboard. Mike Quinn yet to get in front of him, but only 29 thousandths behind at the moment. Andrzejewski continues to set personal best as well, although Zabinski a little bit slower in the middle sector there. And it is interesting how, especially in qualifying, you do get certain tracks that tend to suit certain teams a little bit better than others, of course. The big shock for me is the Alpha Delta doing so badly at the moment. Russo and Lucchini 20th and 21st. They were a lot more competitive come Montreal, so maybe yet to get a lap together as we cut to Frank Hamming, who qualifying's historically been his Achilles heel, but he's certainly upped his form lately with consistently finishing on the podium. And of course, getting that win in race 2 last time out, that will boost the Dutchman's confidence, which he really, really needs, because he really, you can tell, third in the championship at the moment, but he is about 29 points adrift of Ivanov in second. So he really needs some big results to get involved here. And there we go, third fastest, just 33 thousandths shy of Simon Frelick's time in second then. So Frank Hamming, I said it's his Achilles heel, but like I say, he seems to be disproving me very keenly and eagerly.
Yeah, good lap there. 1:18.238 puts him third in the order. We can now put the top 4 within 1/10 of a second of each other. And we can still, we can put the top 8 within 1/4 of a second. That's usually the cutoff where you get to the drivers who are in contention for victories. So if we go by that logic again today, then the top 8 are really the ones to look for. And the more drivers we can squish into that first quarter of a second, the better the race is going to be. Into the pits comes Jason Muscat now. He was improving on the first sector, but was down on the second. But realistically, the reason he's coming into the pits there is because you have to go back to the pits before you set out to start another lap. You can't just escape back to the pits from the track, and these drivers are running very little fuel and very soft tires that they're pushing to their limits, and that's a mistake from Ivanov as he was about to improve on his lap. So does he come in? He does come into the pits. I think he might have been planning to do that anyway, but if that was going to be a lap, then that was the moment at which it died, Ed.
Yeah, and you can tell Ivanov maybe feeling a little bit of pressure from Simon Frelick there, because that pushed him just to overheat the tyres ever so slightly through the final sector, as Omari Watson absolutely chucks it into New Holland on this outlap then. So let's ride on board. Down the start-finish straight comes the British driver in the Netrex, of course. He's not had the greatest of fortunes this season. Couple of podiums to his name, but yet to win so far this season. His last win was race 2 in Monza. There we go, through the first couple of corners, through Elf and into Renault. That long right-hander that in the wet you sort of have to lift, but in the dry, especially in qualifying, you can take it flat out. Into Repsol, turn 4 we go. And Murray Watson drifts a little bit wide, but just about keeps on the power as he gets into Sayat corner. The tight left-hander before it stretches out towards Verf, and we're going downhill now. This is such a tricky braking zone, so easy to get a little bit too far over the curb and you sort of just skateboard off into the gravel, but Omari Watson avoids that fate up into Campsa turn 9. Again, another corner that can spit you out if you're unwary, and then downhill towards Lacaxia, and it's a very, very good middle sector, Caitlin.
Yep, pretty good middle sector indeed. It's not technically a true purple, meaning it's not quite the fastest time that we've seen in that sector all day, but it is showing up as purple in the on the stream because it's faster than the top time. So it's faster than the time that Ivanov set to go to the very top of the times, and that means that Watson has a chance, and he goes third. So Watson goes third with a 1:18.211. That puts him just, well, under 400ths of a second behind Ivanov Ivanov at the top of the times, but he's escaped to the pits, so that will be the last that we see of Amari Watson. We're now into the last minute and 10 seconds of qualifying, so it's really crunch time now. There's no more opportunity to start another qualifying lap if you are in the pits, or if you're not far enough around your outlap already. Jason Muscat's looking quick here, and really not that far off that quarter of a second buffer that I was talking about before. He is just under 0.3 of a second off the leaders, and looks to be about to improve. Not the best turn into the final turn there, but even so, and does not improve on his time. I didn't think he looked quite comfortable through that final sector. He may get another chance though if he has the tyres and the fuel for it. Same here for Harry Smith, Ed.
Yeah, Harry Smith and Pavel Andrzejewski both setting personal bests in the first sector here as Harry Smith goes through Verf then. So Smith has been very, very consistent this season. Often when Watson has fallen off the road, Smith has been there to pick up the pieces. They are currently separated just by 2 points in the Drivers' Championship, and they are, of course, leading the teams table. So this could be a profitable race one for Netrex if they can both get their cars finishing in the top 5. But first, of course, they've got to qualify there, and Harry Smith looks very, very hooked up then through the final couple of corners, a little bit wide out of Europe car and then into New Holland. Just a run to the line to go now, and he remains 5th, just that 10th shy in the final sector, costing Harry Smith a chance of getting on to the front row.
Yeah.
Oh, Luca Filin, purple in the first sector, 24.2. So KKR have suddenly found something here, and Luca Filin, the super Swede, on a flyer.
And that is a true purple as well. That is the fastest first sector time that we've seen all day. So let's see what his second sector time is. He's about to break that particular beam, so we should get the notification any second as to whether his lap's been kept up. It's not the fastest we've seen, but it's still up there. It's pretty darn good. It's about a 10th off what Mike Quint just did. I'd expect this lap from Lucas Stylen to maybe put him 4th or 5th as it currently stands. Potentially a top 3 if he can get the final sector really, really well. As for pole position, I think that now belongs to Viktor Ivanov, but it's still too early to write it off. Across the line goes Lucas Stylen, and it is 5th position. So Stylen goes 5th, and he was the last driver who looked set to improve. So I believe that means that qualifying is over. Viktor Ivanov and Shimon Frelich will share the front row of the grid.
Yeah, and Mike Quinn also improved, but he was 15,000 shy. Luca Fine just 2,000 shy of Frank Hamming then in that fight over 4th position. So it's very, very tight. The top 10 separated by just under 0.3, and the top 6 by less than a tenth then. So tiny, tiny margins deciding that qualifying session, but no surprises up front. It's Viktor Ivanov that heads the table. So let's take you through the qualifying results then. Viktor Ivanov, the pole time in the end of 1:18.173, and that is an ominous sign ahead of race 1 that Ivanov is looking to chew into Mike Quint's championship lead then. Simon Frelich on his return, 2nd fastest. Very, very strong result for Griffone. How dearly they'd love a 2nd podium of the season. Omari Watson, 3rd for Netrex with a very good final effort near the end there to beat Frank Hamming. Luca Filin launches up the grid to 5th right at the end of the session too. Mike Quint, sort of a decent qualifying session, but not quite where he would have hoped to be. A lot of cars in between himself and Ivanov to clear. Harry Smith lines up 7th. Then it's the 2 Hyperions of Andrzejewski and Zabinski, 8th and 9th, with Jason Muscat on his return rounding out the top 10 for HGP. Luke Mitchell lines up 11th ahead of Robin Mulling and the Rookie Monsters. Then it is Tom Savali 13th. Federico Russo sets a solid time for Alpha Delta to get into the top 14. And Philip Koenig is going to line up 15th. That's the last of the point scorers in race 1. Menno Klont is going to be just outside the top 15. It is Damir Kuratko on his first FS1 appearance for KKR in 17th to out-qualify Scott Mitchell-Marm in the first of the Kings Racing cars. James Knox, another FS2 graduate, in 19th. Then it's Brody Lawless for Parallax Volpino rounding out the top 20. 21st, Mirko Lucchini in the 2nd of the Alpha Deltas. Then Jack Nichols lines up 22nd for Kings Racing. Bradley Sellers is 23rd, ahead of Owen Kielhausvik in the 100-1. Daniel Scott is 25th for Rookie Monsters. Then it is Kasper Kuritz on a first appearance for him in FS1, I believe, for Pixelate Esports in 26th. David de Vries is going to line up 27th, just ahead of his teammate Justin van der Smissen for the VMS Sun Edit squad. Mane Manakanden is 28th for 100 to 1. And lining up at the rear of the grid, and I believe Patrick Magnussen might actually be serving a grid penalty from a previous appearance in FS1, which is why he may have elected to set out qualifying. But whatever the case, he will start 29th and last.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out which car is missing, because we're supposed to have 30 cars, and there is only 29. It doesn't seem to be any of the teams within that bottom group there, so it must be one that with a driver starting higher up. So I'll go on the hunt for that for you.
I'm seeing 30 drivers in the warm-up session at the moment, Caitlin, so it could just be someone that's just gotten in.
Someone has just joined, so that's always good to see. Looks like we will have a full house. Now, of course, I've got to work out who just joined, so who's going to be at the back of the field, but I guess we can find that out in due time.
I think it might be
one of the pixelates, yeah, no, that would make sense. One thing that I would like to point out from the perspective of the Teams Championship is that Netrex GP with Harry Smith and Amari Watson are leading that by 13 points, despite not having taken a single race victory yet. Harry Smith has 3 podiums to his name. Amari Watson has 5 podiums to his name. None of those, though, have been on the top step of that particular podium. There have been 3 victories taken by Multiforce and 6 victories taken by MS Performance, although unfortunately their drivers have all had DNFs, and they've had a little bit of a revolving door of drivers as well, with Shimon Frelich doing a round, Stefan Rolt doing a round, we've had Danny van der Niet doing a round for them as well, so it's not been entirely plain sailing for MS Performance, despite their extremely good setups and extremely strong races. Aside from that, HGP Motorsports has a win, and KKR has 2 wins with Lucas Stylin. But despite all of that, it is still Netrex at the top. So definitely look out for their drivers today, especially Harry Smith coming through from 7th. I'm expecting a much stronger race from him.
Yeah, incredibly consistent Netrex, and of course they are very, very closely aligned with the MS Performance squad. So they're very good friends with Victor Ivanov, understandably, because historically he's always been a Netrex driver. And Tom Savalli, who I think actually might have been the driver that we saw just kicked out of qualifying right before the results screen appeared there. So I think Savalli should be lining up. I forget exactly where he qualified on the grid, but we'll find out, I guess, in due course. As we look at Kasper Kuritz, getting ready for his first FS1 start of the season. And Pixelate, of course, have got a pole position to their name with Isaac Clark, and Clark was, of course, second at the Shanghai Grand Prix in race 2 there, where it was led pretty much all race from reverse grid pole and was just beaten by Filin at the pretty much the final lap of the race. He dived at the outside of him rather, at the hairpin there. So that was a very, very dramatic finish. I just saw on the Multiforce cars, I think, having a bit of an adventure up the inside on the grass into turn 1 there. So let's hope that's not our dress rehearsal for the race then. But yeah, I think up front it's really going to be about Ivanov versus Frelich, I think, at least at the start of this race. And maybe the likes of Netrex and HGP can use some clever strategy to work their way back into this one. I remember at this race last year, it was Carlos Martin in FS1 who did a very, very good strategy in both races to finish. I believe he finished both races here on the podium at his home race. So Netrex will be hoping to emulate that with Watson and Smith, as Mike Quint goes a little bit beyond the track limits there, coming out of Campsa. And yeah, so warm-up tends to be where you see people get either very, very racy with one another or very, very experimental with the track limits to see what they can get away with after qualifying.
I mean, I don't blame them. It's not like you can really lose anything by picking up a penalty or anything like that. And to be honest, it's probably better that you do. It's the old Gilles Villeneuve approach of find the limits by going over them. But there you are. So in terms of strategy, what are we expecting? Is it the top 15 drivers who are scheduled to start on their qualifying tyre, or is it free choice?
I think you're right. I think it is the top 15 that have to start on the tyres they qualify on, but I That's definitely the rule in Super League, so yeah, I think
Yes.
it also carries over here to FS1.
Okay, so that is the rule. The top 15 will be starting on the tyres that they qualified on, so in this case the softer compound of tyre. Of course, every driver will have to use 2 dry compounds of tyre. Of course, that changes if it rains, but the rain in Spain stays mainly on the plain, so we should be fine. And aside from that, race 2 coming up later will be completely different. There will be no mandatory pit stop, but we will get to that when we come to it. In the meantime, all you've really got to consider is that there will be a pit stop in race 1 for every single driver, and there will be a change of tyre compound as well. So if a driver decides to start on the harder compounded tyre, for example, they will have to use the soft tyre later on as well, and that's the great thing about this series. The fortune can kind of swing in both directions.
We're just looking at the 2 Kings Racing cars of Scott Mitchell-Marm and Jack Nichols, of course. Those 2 drivers, due to real-life commitments, their availability has been a little bit here and there. But they are in a very, very tight battle in the championship, basically 9th through to 13th. We've got Griffone in 9th, 52 points, Hyperion 10th, 50 points, Pixel 8, 11th on 48 points, Kings Racing 12th on 46 points, and then Rookie Monsters 13th on 40 points. So there's very, very little to choose between those 5 teams or so, as they're all fighting for that final couple of positions in the top 10. And so Kings, if they Scott Mitchell qualified fairly well, just outside, I think, the top 15. So if Kings play their cards right, they could both gain quite a few positions with a solid strategy here. But it's all about whether they go for an undercut maybe, or whether they try and stay out a bit longer and go for some fresher tyres near the end, and I hope that those in front of them just run out of tyres in the final couple of laps. But it'll be interesting to see how Kings play it. But I think priority 1 is got to be stay out of trouble, especially the first couple of laps, Caitlin, because those tend to be where things get very, very bunched up and chaotic here at Barcelona.
Yeah, of course, especially with the first few corners, the right, left, right. The cars do tend to bunch up through that section, and you do see people getting a little bit crazy as we see Jack Nichols running through the gravel just as we're talking. Oh.
Attention grid, all non-essential personnel leave the grid now.
And surprisingly, a few more hard runners.
Oh yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to Barcelona for our coverage of the first of our two races here at round 7 of the 2024 Formula Sprint 1 Championship. My name is Edward Hunter. I'm joined by Caitlin Penny and our broadcast director, Remco de Zeeuw. Here is the starting grid. Victor Ivanov on pole with Simon Frederick alongside him on the front row. Row 2, Omari Watson and Frank Hamming. Row 3 is formed of Luca Violin and Mike Quinn. Then on row 4, it's Harry Smith and Pavel Andrzejewski. It's his best qualifying of the season for Hyperion. Row 5, Matthew Zabinski and Jason Muscat for HGP. Then on row 6, it's Luke Mitchell and Robin Mulling for Rookie Monsters. Row 7, Tom Savali is joined by Federico Russo. Then on row 8, it's Philip Koenig and Menno Klont for Multiforce. Row 9, Demir Karatko is joined by Scott Mitchell-Malm. Then on row 10, it's James Knox and Brody Lawless. Row 11 is Mirko Licini and Jack Nichols. Then on row 12, it's Bradley Sellers and Owen Kilhausvik for 100 to 1. And in 25th and 26th, it's Daniel Scott and Kasper Kuritz. 27th and 28th, it's the two VMS Sun edits of David De Vries and Justin van der Smissen. Finally on the grid, in 29th position, we've got Patrick Magnussen. So Caitlin, definitely feels like we've lost at least one driver, but as Magnussen slots in, the race is about to get underway.
Yeah, I'm scrambling to work out who it is that we're missing, but I will let you take the start, Ed.
Here we go, the lights on already and they're about to extinguish, and when they do, we'll get underway, and Omari Watson does not move at all. So he got completely caught unawares there, but it's Frelick that's made the superior getaway and snatched the lead away from Victor Ivanov as they go into turn 1 then. Frank Hamming is 3rd, Mike Quinn 4th, Andrzejewski 5th, and then Muscat has muscled his way through to 6th past Zabinski then as Watson continues to hemorrhage places. And looks like Harry Smith has not had a good start either, so this is really, really bad first lap for Netrex so far as Watson tries to recover ground by going up the inside of Luke Mitchell. And one of the KKR cars going all the way on the grass at the inside at Repsol corner there as they all try and shuffle through into Seat.
Yeah, the car we're missing, unfortunately, is Manu Manukau Pandan, 400 to 1. He was going to start 27th position, but the race continues. Now up the hill they go through Campsa. This is a very fast corner, and when you're this tight on the first lap of the race, you can often misjudge how much downforce you're going to lose. There's a little move going on back there. Amari Watson defending hard from Robin Merling in the Team Rookie Monsters car, and Federico Rosso right up there with them as well as they come towards the end of the first lap. Shimon Frelich has taken the lead. Viktor Ivanov is second, and then Hamming, Quint and Andrzejewski are the top 5.
Yeah, there we go. So this was not part of Viktor Ivanov's game plan for Shimon Frelich to jump him at the start, but certainly not Omari Watson's idea of a good first lap, him having to defend from Robin Mulling and the Rookie Monsters. Look at that, Savali going side by side with the second Griffon. That must be Philip Koenig in the battle for 15th position. Savali has gotten through and now is free to chase after Menoclant, who's gained 2 positions from where he started though. Luca Phelan, another driver that's not had the greatest of first lap. I think it was him that I saw that was on the grass on the inside there. But now Ivanov is going to tuck in behind Frelich. They were teammates before earlier this season, so Ivanov very familiar.
Become the first retirement of this race. So unfortunately, Justin van der Smissen is out after the second lap. Looking back at the replay at the start, I cannot believe how slowly Amari Watson got away. You very rarely see things like stalls or anti-stall kicking in these cars. So it's almost like he just didn't see the lights go out or something along those lines. And Lucas Stylen did indeed have to take avoiding action going onto the grass, which is why he's lost out as well. Harry Smith lost out. So Watson not just affected, but both of the Netrex cars caught up in that one, and that's brought the likes of Frank Hamming, Mike Quint, Pavel Andrzejewski right up the order.
Just as I say that, it's horrible timing. But yeah, Frank Hamming, fastest lap of the race. He's looking very, very threatening to Viktor Ivanov at this phase. And Simon Frelich can't afford to get too comfortable.